Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? I am the most opinionated man in comics, Javon Stokes. This man to my, I did it. I got it right. This man to my left, your right. I don't know how this goes. My left, yeah, my left, your right, is educator, writer, professional hater, Jamari Stokes. And
That's what I need to put on mine. The professional hater.
hey, listen, got to have a moniker. We are A Stoked Podcast, and we thank you for joining us this week. We are both tired. Um, I'm not going to speak for why Jamari's tired, but I'm personally tired because we have a really great. This is me stretching out, elongating my my words so I can find the imagery. I will be at Northeast Comic Con and Collectibles Extravaganza in Boxborough, Massachusetts this weekend. Come on by tomorrow. Starts at 3 or 4, I'm not sure. But I will be there on continuing the Heat #2 launch celebrations. So I'll be there once again. If you didn't see it, go ahead, check it out. There's the website necomiccon.com. Check us out. Check it out. There's a bunch of great guys. Keith Williams is there. I saw that. I think Joe St. Pierre is there, artists from Marvel who have done Marvel work and I believe some DC work. So come on out, get some good stuff. I think they got even a karaoke night for the Friday night and Saturday.
That would be unnecessarily fun.
I'm not singing, but I will be in attendance at some point. I know you would. I'm going to be standing up talking all day. And as I discussed already, we are in the middle of Heat #2 launch. If you haven't picked up your copy, boom, visuallystoked.com. You can find it there. You can get the digital and the print copy. So if you can't afford, if you don't want to spend $10 and shipping and handling, you can get the digital copy tonight for, I think it's $2.99. So yes, go support the kid, support the most opinionated man in comics so that he can keep calling himself that. You can also pick up your Heat trade, the collection, featuring the first miniseries plus the graphic novel. That's 150 pages in there. That's 150. That's like 7 books. And as well, you can pick up Heat #1. This is also print and digital, so you can get them both. You can get the digital tonight. And then Strong #2, which I do have digital. I just don't have it up yet, but I'm working on it. I am a one-man band, so, So like I said, go to visuallystoked.com. Boom, check us out. And check me out, Northeast Comic Con. Do you have any announcements, Jamari, before I go any further?
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, I can't be at your event tomorrow. And unfortunately, I can't be at my event come next month. And that's going to be Newton Anime Day. So we're doing that again for this year.
Awesome.
And I still want to get more people to come in, and either I want more creators to come in and talk to kids. So
did I lose you, Jamari? Jamari's frozen.
You're creating it. Let it have some.
That was not a great face to be frozen on. You were frozen.
That's terrible.
It was not a good look.
I didn't even.
But yeah, I'm gonna try to make that count. I just got to find me a really inexpensive flight, and then I'll be there.
I will actually have things up for that to go up to next week. I might even have it for you before.
Oh, he's frozen again. I don't know what's going on. Jamari's your signal is kind of ghetto tonight.
I'm having one of those days, huh?
Yeah. It's
so it's my turn to have technical issues.
It is your turn. I apologize for the sniffing, everybody. Allergies suck. Allergies suck. Even more so when you have a dog in the house and you're allergic to dogs. Allergies suck. But yeah, so I'm gonna try and make your con. I'm gonna do my best. We'll see what the next couple of weeks look like. If I can give me a nice If I can get me a nice cheap flight, I'll fly up and back real quick. But yeah, we're gonna have this is I'm calling this season 2 for a Stoked Podcast because we've officially done 52 weeks, so it's a year of shows, and I'm shocked that we've made it this far. So yeah, we're gonna call this season 2. As you guys saw, you saw the nice new, imagery we got going. Jamari is finally on the masthead. Took me forever to draw it. I was in the middle of doing heat number 1 and 2 when this show first started. Actually heat 1, 2, and strong I was doing. So I got wrapped up. So but we got them on there, and we got some really great guests coming. As if you saw on Facebook, we've got, writer, all around great guy, Rodney Barnes. He was one of the writers for the Lakers show that just came on, as well as a really successful Image book, Philadelphia. I am looking forward to that one. He's next week. We've got some returning people, Kevin Chapman, Dwayne Robinson, and we've also got some new folks that have never been on here that have some really creative venues and journeys and careers that we haven't really dove into yet. So I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. And then I'm doing my best to be everywhere this year. I'm trying to be at Terrificon. I'm trying to be at Baltimore Comic-Con, Fan Expo Comic-Con. I'm trying my best to do Philly Expo, Fan Expo. I'm going to be around a lot. So you'll see me one way or another.
I got to make it to some things outside of Georgia myself.
Hey, the big one is Dragon Con. I'm trying to make it to Dragon Con. If I can make it to Dragon Con, I'll be happy.
You're in Dragon Con, I'm there. I'm helping you. So we will be there. If you're here, Facebook user.
We're stalling, y'all, because we're waiting for our guest to come on. I don't know if he's having some technical difficulties. He was actually on before us and then got off, but we're going to do some different things. We're going to do more of the round tables. Oh, there you go. He popped in, but we'll bring him in a second. We're going to do some more of the round tables. We're going to do different things like we're doing tonight. And I would love to do, I'm not sure when, but I'm going to do a chat and draw on this show. When I figure out how to do it, I'm going to do a chat and draw so you guys can see me and my unorthodox, insane process. You get to see me draw, and then you can see what kind of a fraud I actually am. But yeah, so we're gonna do some different things this season, to take the show to the next level. And that's a great segue into today. For tonight's show, we're doing something different. Like I said, when I started this podcast, I wanted to give different creators and entrepreneurs a venue to promote their products, their companies, etc. But then I thought there are many individuals who are trying to get a foothold in these same industries. They should get an opportunity to not only talk about the beginnings of their journeys, but also to give me and the community watching an opportunity to help them with whatever knowledge and resources that we have. So tonight's guest is one of those individuals, a young man who's a frequent viewer of the show and a talented artist and writer in his own right. Let's give a Stoked Podcast round of applause for Savion Ross. Here we go.
All right. Can you hear me?
Man? Yeah, we can hear you.
All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. It feels great to be on the show. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, all right. I know you. We see you watching like at least every other week.
Yeah.
So we appreciate.
I try to get on every week. Every week.
Welcome. Someone says congratulations to Jamari for finally getting his face on the promo.
Hey, what can I say? It happens sometimes.
You guys make it act like I made him earn it. Like I literally just didn't have the time to draw it. Like I just needed time. I reused my face. on the promo is reused from the top 5. I just want you guys, if you see top 5 marketing, it's the same face. I just cut and paste it. I'm lazy like that. But welcome, man. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice Black Panther shirt. Nice Black Panther. Well, Black
very
Panther.
Good, very good, very good. Well, dang, I should have busted mine out if I had known. I didn't get the memo.
I didn't know, man. I didn't know.
I blame Javon.
I mean, everybody does. But yeah, man, welcome. Glad to see you on. I'm always, happy to see young people. And I'm going to sound really old for a second here, so just bear with me. I'm really happy to see young people get involved with the creative, entrepreneurship and the creative industry, because it's a very, I'm going to try and say this politically, it's a very fluid industry, and sometimes it's really hard to get a foothold in. So any way I can help, I'm glad to help. But we're going to get into this. We're going to treat you a little differently than a regular guest, because this is a dialogue. We want you to ask questions as well. But before we get there, when did your love of the arts begin?
All right. So my love of art began pretty young, actually. So I think around like kindergarten, I drew a bunch of stuff. I drew like Sonic because I was playing a bunch of Sonic games when I was younger. In like 5th grade, like in my middle school years, I did a bunch of like Minecraft comics, and that was really when like I kind of got into comics at first, but I wasn't like super big on them. I was aware of them, but like I wasn't super big on them. And then in terms of like storytelling art, that really spiked around like sophomore, junior year of high school, and I just kind of carry that all the way through into where I am today.
Okay. So this was it. What sparked it though? Like, I know, everybody draws drawings when they're a kid, but not everybody keeps it going. Was it did you have any type of encouragement from somebody, or did you just feel like, I'm pretty good at this, I should keep going? Like, how did it continue when others would kind of put it down?
So, I'd say it started, or that spark kind of came in, I think it was 2018 or 2019. I remember I saw this trailer for like an animated show on YouTube, and after I finished watching, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. I want to do something like that." I draw sometimes. I write occasionally. I could put my talents to something like this. That kind of inspired me to start like storytelling and like actually writing stories within my own artwork.
Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't get to the mute button because my questions were in front of the mute button. Go ahead, Jamari.
So what are some of those influences that keep you going? You say, because like Javon said, there's things that people start and you get, but what is it that kept you, what gripped you and kept you going? What are your influences?
Like what influenced me to keep going, or like what influenced me at the start and like kept me going like onward? Is that what you mean?
Both.
Okay, so I'd say the spark that kept me wanting to do it was just to see it through personally, because I started my first story like 4 to 5 years ago, and I kept going through like many different rewrites and a bunch of drafts and everything. And when I finally got down like a story pattern that I felt was like, all right, this is the best version, or like this is my favorite version of the story that I can tell, I wanted to like share that with the world and like have it put out. I hope what I'm saying is like kind of making sense, but like I wanted to see this project through and then see how far I could really go with it. That's kind of the main reason for keep going.
Okay. Now, did you seek out like help regarding like training, like, actual somebody who has experience in drawing, who, a teacher or anyone outside of myself? Because we've talked quite a couple times, but outside of me, have you ever Have you talked to anybody, asked for tips, training, tricks, whatever?
More so in like the storytelling part. I would ask my English teachers in high school and in my few years in college so far. I've asked like a couple of teachers. I've given them my drafts and like, hey, what do you think of this? And then I get feedback on that. I've also asked some of my classmates and like other club members that I'm a part of, like feedback on how some sort of writing, how like a chapter sounds. I've asked my family as well. They've given me great feedback when I've like asked them for it. But it's mainly just been like the story side of things, not so much with the art. That's kind of been my sort of stronger side of things, I would say, compared to like between writing and art. Art was probably my stronger suit. The other two.
Now, you're still in college, right?
Yes, I'm a sophomore.
Okay. What's your major?
Majoring in art.
Oh, no. Okay.
With a concentration in digital art.
Okay. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one. So again, I'm gonna ask this question, but in a different way. I'm hopefully asking it in a different way. What made you want to make this a career? So there's a difference between I like doing this, I'm gonna do this on the side, and I like doing this, I want to make money off it. Like I want to dedicate my life to it. What made you want to do it as a career?
So I'd say back in like high school, junior year, we had a bunch of speakers coming in like, oh, you could follow this career path, you could follow this career path, you can make this decision to do that. And around that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do in terms of career. I switched between like game design, like writing to TV shows, a bunch of stuff like that. And when I came to college, and it was around the time like, I have this book just kind of sitting there with all these ideas laid out. I feel like I could really do something with this. And then when I shared it with another student that is also like a creative writer, she told me like, oh, you could really make a career out of this. You could definitely pursue this far into the future. And so I was like, okay, I could definitely take this further. I want to see how far I can go with this. I want to share this story with the world, with like people,
Okay. All right. It's a big jump though. One of the things I'll say is when you're sharing stuff with your family doesn't necessarily want to tell you the truth. And I'm not necessarily talking about you, but I'm saying in general. It's like singing in front of your family. They'll tell you, oh, baby, you sound great. But then you get up in front of people, and the people who don't care about you, they'll tell you the truth. And it's the same thing with, art, especially when you're in a career path with incredibly talented people everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jabari.
So now that you're in college, are you starting to kind of have you already kind of formed a community of fellow creators and artists that you have started to share and even work with?
Yeah, I've definitely found like friend groups that have interest in both like art, interest in writing. I've definitely found those communities, and I'm very grateful I found them like super early on, so I'm not like waiting till junior year and I'm like, okay, I have no one to really relate this to, so what can I really do? But I have found people who have similar interests to me.
And how would you feel like you have been, how have you been influenced by them, and how have you maybe influenced them?
So the way I've been influenced by others is as I share like my stuff with them, they tell me, oh, you're a great writer. I really like the ideas and like the stories that you tell. You should definitely like do more of this. You should make this a more like frequent thing. Like you should do this more often. I really like you inspire. Like I remember, sorry I'm like rambling, but
go ahead, man, it's your time.
The other student I was talking about earlier who said I can make like a career out of writing, she told me, she's a senior, and she told me like the way you dedicate yourself to your craft and how much passion and like effort you put into your writing, it's really inspiring to them as a writer as well.
Okay. So what do you like? What topic, subject matter, genre, what do you prefer to write? Like what's your like go-to?
I prefer fiction. The specific genre like sci-fi fantasy, it doesn't really matter to me. I personally prefer more sci-fi and like supernatural kind of things, but it's always fiction at the end of the day, but I never have like a specific genre that I always go to. But it's between sci-fi and the supernatural.
Okay. So walk me through it. So this is where I'm going to go into mentorship a little bit. Walk me through your creative process, right? Like if you get in, so let's say something inspired you. What's your next step?
Something inspired me. Okay, so if I am inspired by something, I'll go and I'll start thinking like, okay, so what's a story that I can tell and how can I make it interesting to people who've never like, well, not never, but like maybe someone who's reading it for the first time. And so I'm like thinking, I'm like processing like different ideas, different things I can toy with, how I can kind of create this vision I have in my head. And then once I have that like story down, like, okay, now let's work on like some of the more finer details. Like let's work on the characters, work on the environment, let's work on like the different subtle details in the story. And it all comes together at the end. Like so the overall message is this, and this is explained through character A and this moment in the story. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give you a piece of advice regarding your process.
Mhm.
And it's something that I read somewhere else. Gosh, allergies are killing me. Excuse me. So someone posted this on Twitter, and I have literally just adapted and adopted this because it helps ground whatever it is that I'm writing.
Right.
They made a point of pointing out that the genre and the background and the mythology of whatever your story is should always come second. The first thing you want to do is find out, like, boil your story down to like the bare essence. And they use the example of Die Hard.
Mhm.
And they were like, Die Hard at its base level is a married couple that are struggling with their issues and they're on the outs and they're trying to work things out. Everything else is just window dressing. The terrorists, the Nakatomi, all that other stuff. It boils down to a husband and a wife working on each other, basically.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to find it. Give me another example of another great fiction. I love Lost. Lost is one of my favorite shows. When you boil Lost down to it, the show Lost is about broken people finding them, like rebuilding themselves, basically. Everything else is just window dressing. The flight, the plane, all that stuff is just extra. Once you find that nugget, then everything else can build on top of it. And then, it's great and all that stuff's nice. But if you got to get that nugget. Even if you look at like Avatar.
Right.
Avatar, it's basic. The basic premise is basically a guy learning a different culture. I mean, there are other things happening, but that's what this is. This is one guy learning to appreciate another culture.
Yeah, that's like the main
right
point about
and
it.
then everything else is kind of like the stuff you add on that makes your story, I don't want to say special, but specific, I guess. But
Like,
yeah, once you get that nugget, then you can run with whatever it is. So that's a piece of advice that every time somebody asks me about writing, it's what I bring up and it's what I tell them. Because once I read that, everything clicked, like everything, even my own book.
Okay, I'm like taking notes on
That's
the side
right.
here.
That's
Never
right.
mind if I look down.
No worries. Go ahead, Jamari.
No, actually, I'm sitting here. You got me caught up listening to you on that part because me and you've actually had that conversation before.
Right. I think people get caught up. And this is me now. Everybody watching, I'm giving my opinion. There are other writers who have other philosophies and other processes, and theirs are just as valid as theirs. But this is for me. If I don't have a base thing like why does this story need to be told, then I kind of get lost. And then it's just all window dressing. And I'm trying to think of a movie that I felt that way about. That was just like, oh, a lot of stuff is happening, but I don't really care. But you see it. Like they're a movie you're just bored to tears.
Sucker Punch.
That, never watched it, so I can't tell you. But like even, with Heat, shameless self-promotion, Heat at its basic is a young man who is trying to find himself in the world. That's base where every story starts off there. Now there's some other stuff like his relationship with his dad and and that's when you start stacking and that provides depth. But you have to know where you're coming from at every point because that's where the story will provide you direction.
Right.
So every story I do on Heat is based off Cameron. What does he want in life? He doesn't know. Okay, so different things happen to him to try to explain to him what you could do in life. So y'all just learned something about Heat. Go get Heat. But yeah, so that's one big nugget which I was taught to me through Twitter. What other resources do you use to hone your craft, like to hone your writing ability, your skill?
So it's a tricky question there because for most of like my writing career, I've usually just gotten like feedback from other people and just kind of adjusted my style around that. I haven't personally found like a good like source of like good feedback, like not feedback, but like a good source of like inspiration to really perfect what I like my craft. I guess actually I think I do have like an example. Like when I go into a theater and I'm like watching like some kind of movie, I always like take a mental note in my head, like, okay, so this is what the themes are. This is what the movie is like about. This is what the characters are like. This is what they want to do. I try to take note of that with both good and like bad movies, or I guess I can like any kind of movie depending on how you feel about it. But like I usually take like external media like TV shows, movies, and like see how they do their stories, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then try to kind of work my way around something similar. Like, okay, so looking back at my story, this doesn't work, this does work, let's work on adjusting accordingly.
Okay. Well, if you want to be in, hi Frank. I don't know Frank. Hi Frank. Frank must be new, but welcome Frank. If you want to be in comics, well, again, I'm giving you the knowledge that has been passed to me. This is a great book. It's called DC Comics Guide to Writing Comics by Dennis O'Neil. Dennis O'Neil was Dennis O'Neil. Did he create Ra's al Ghul? I want to say Dennis O'Neil was one of the creators of Ra's al Ghul. I'm gonna make sure I don't screw that up because I don't want anybody to be mad at me. Yep, Dennis O'Neil. All right, Neil Adams too. So I was like you, before I got into comic books, before I am where I am now, I read comics so I understood the tenor and the flow of it. but I still wanted to learn more. And I found this book. I don't even remember where it was, but I found this book, and it's really good at helping you understand the structure of doing comic books. You know, it's not like writing a movie script. I've been talking to Jamari about this. Um, you know, it helps you. Okay, how many panels you need. You know, uh, how many word balloons should be in a how many words should be in a word balloon. Like there's like a base set of knowledge that you should probably get comfortable with before you kind of jump in. And I mean, you can obviously jump in. People jump in all the time. Like I'm not going to tell you that you can't do that. But like that book this book was a really big help. It's probably still in publication, so you should, you know,
I'll
be able
look
to get
into
it.
it. I remember when I was at Barnes and Noble, I found another book it was something similar. It was like how to like the baseline to writing comics. I haven't fully read it through because I haven't had too much time on my hands, unfortunately. But I remember like skimming through the pages and like, okay, this is some good information. It's like what you said before, like how many words should go in a word bubble, or how many text boxes you would need. It was something similar to what you just said. I
Yeah,
gotta like
and check
search
out
for it.
Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud.
Understand.
I always say those two are the big books if you really want to understand the craft of writing, of creating comics, because you know there it's a different form of writing, because you know when you're doing like novel and prose, you're very descriptive because there's no art. But
Yeah.
you don't necessarily always have to be descriptive when you're doing a script for a comic book. You really can just say, you give, well, at least for me, when I'm writing a script and I'm writing scripts for myself, I give the baseline information. Now, there are some writers that are really flowery with it, and God bless them. I don't have the time. I'm like, the environment, the individuals involved, their emotional state, and any background stuff that is necessary for the story.
Right.
Like that is kind of where I start with every panel. So it'll say, you know, heat, you know, gas, like he gas in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say, if somebody else is in the scene, I'll say, wow, this person is doing this. And then if I want the background, then it's windy or whatever. But oh, looks like you got some fam on there. Got some family.
Thank you.
Got some
Thank you,
family.
Uncle.
But yeah, so the best way to get better at comics is to make comics, but there are resources available for you that can help you along the way, so you don't, because I when I was doing it, I was doing a lot of like trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to do trial and error regardless, but
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamar.
So
that's
what
a
are
great
some
question.
of the
When Jamari finishes, I'll answer it.
What are some of the themes that you tend to like to toy with your writing and your creation?
Some of the themes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think one of the big themes that I enjoy writing personally is like I want the reader to like ask questions about what's happening in a way where like they get super like involved with it. Okay, so this is interesting. I wonder what is like actually happening here. Not in terms of like are you confused about what's going on, but like it's a little weird to explain. Like I enjoy writing like mystery. I like leaving the reader on the edge of their seat, leaving them wondering what's going to happen next. And in terms of like themes tying into that specifically, that's another tricky question. But
What
I'll just
subject
say
matter? What would be some subject matter that you like to play? You clearly are you as with a lot of people you want to create suspense and that in itself is an art form of being able to create suspense and keep the reader on the line and having them want to know more. That's true. So what are some themes what are some subjects that you like to play with right now? What's interesting to you?
Like right now. So one of the subjects, I want to like try and draw this from one of the stories that I've written. So one of the stories, one of the subjects that I worked on in one of my favorite stories that I've written is like internal conflict, kind of, where, okay, just to give like a brief example, let's say there's two characters who have like differing opinions on how something like a situation should be handled. One character wants to like resolve things peacefully. They want to make it so there's as little like conflict and violence as possible. But the other one, they don't care what happens to like anyone else as long as like what they want is done and gets like seen through. And that's kind of an interesting dynamic that I tend to play with some of my stories. It's kind of like the protagonist and antagonist where like they have clashing ideals all the time, but I try not to do that for every single thing that I write, if that makes sense. And I guess another theme that I found myself kind of tying into is I've been looking more into like mental health for characters as well, because I don't want every character to just be the exact same. Like I want each character to have like their own voice, and I think kind of looking at like the synopsis of my stories and like how that would affect certain characters in like different ways. I want to like have that be unique for every character, so they have their own like voice, if that there. So they have like their own identity.
So yeah, you're trying to make them 3-dimensional. You're trying to give them some actual depth to them. So that's a very very big positive when it comes to writing, because even some well-known characters are extremely flat and they're very one-note. So maybe some people, they only exist just to die.
But I want to build on what Jamari, the question, like he asked, what themes do you you have in your books, and like I would do some more reading and figuring out what he means by themes, right? So you can do like a theme would be like the loss of innocence, or
man versus machine,
right? Man versus machine, or the grand love affair, like something.
Right.
It kind of goes back to that nugget that I was
tradition
talking about.
Versus progress.
Right. So it's almost like the nugget is. We'll build one real quick. A father's relationship with their son. Boom. That would be the nugget. Then the theme would be, age youth versus experience. So now we're building the story on top. Before we even talked about characters or anything like that, we've got the nugget, we've got the theme, and then we can go, okay, well, environment. What environment do we want to put this in? Well, I don't honestly. A lot of times, I don't even, unless the character is like, unless it's like a franchise. You know what I mean? Like if it's a franchise where I have this really cool idea for a character, I don't even deal with characters until I get this stuff out the way.
Right.
Because once I get this stuff, then everything kind of like, okay, so if the environment is a post-apocalyptic world, okay, boom. So we've got the environment, we've got the theme, and we've got the nugget. And so the stuff kind of starts seeping through. The environment seeps through into the theme, and then the themes and the environment seep through into the characters.
Seep into the characters. Okay.
Right. And then you build the characters from there to fit the environment and to fit the themes. Right. So it's like a tree that goes up and then comes back down, like the fruit kind of go back down. The metaphor doesn't really work, but
that's
all right. That's okay. Yeah.
Writing tends to be the process of writing is a lot more mechanical than people tend to realize. There's this whole idea that you're either born with talent or you're not, and that's not true. A good writer usually has some sort of method. They're very meticulous in some capacity. It may not be the same for me. How Javon might create and write may be completely different.
Exactly.
But there's a method and there's a process to it. And it's when you get into the actual sitting down and writing and then the editing that's when the flavor comes in.
Right.
So I want to answer a question by your mother. Hi, Yasmin. For those people that don't know, and Yasmin and I have been friends since elementary. So I've literally known your mother longer than you've been alive. But awesome person. Is there any software available for the creation of comics? This is, how do I put this? There's software to make comics, but I don't use it, and I don't know who does. Outside of the big scale, like if you're talking about the software like to draw comics, I mean, there's Photoshop, there's what's the other ones?
Clip Studio Paint. I know.
Yeah,
one of my friends uses
Studio. Was it Clip Studio?
Clip Studio.
Clip Studio, and then there's another one.
What's become very popular.
What's the other one? There's one more. Why can't I remember it?
I want to say Paint Tool Side, but I don't think that's.
Not that one. But there are programs to
Paint Shop Pro still exist.
What was that?
Paint Shop Pro. It probably doesn't exist anymore. But,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
But there are programs that are there to make comics, but I know that there are some programs where you have like the built-in paneling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that. That's not me. I'm just now getting into the digital world. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I've been telling people Heat #3 will be the first digital comic I've ever done, and I've drawn one page. But I'm learning. I'm learning because one of the big things you'll learn, and I'm pretty sure you've heard this before, is you never stop learning as an artist. The minute you feel like you don't need to learn anything else, you will not improve. So being that the world we're living in is digital, and we have the ability and the option. I am trying to do things digital. I'm usually a pen and pencil and paper person.
Right.
So but now I got to move into the new, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's been interesting, and on some levels it's been easier, but on some levels it's been more difficult.
Hard too.
Like I had to relearn how to do a vanishing point and perspective lines digitally, because there's a quick way to do it. I was doing it one line at a time. And I was like, what am I doing? There's got to be a shortcut for it. And I just learned how to do the shortcut this week. So it's a gradual process for me. Regarding scripts, I've heard that there are script writing programs. Like there are script writing. I know there's script writing programs for movie scripts and TV
there's
scripts.
Templates out there as well.
There's programs
like Word.
Yeah. But I don't do that. I just literally go page 1, panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4. I do it myself. I'm sure, it probably would make sense for me to find a template, but it's my process. It's how I do it. So yes, that's really all I can tell you is there are a bunch of different programs. You just got to find the one that works for you.
Right. If you're in OS, you can Procreate seems to be a very
Procreate.
Procreate.
That's the one.
That is a fantastic piece of software, and you combine that with the Apple Pen, and you've got people creating and you would think that was going to cost you about $100 to have that program, and it's $15.
That's not bad actually. It's actually really good.
There's a lot of great tutorials online. YouTube, you can find people who you can see people do some wonderful work with that one. And I've been playing with it's pretty intuitive. If you're somebody who's used Photoshop before, you will see some differences. You'll see some similarities. But the big deal with that one is the ability to, so far that I've seen, is the ability to adjust brushes and pins and essentially kind of customize it to work for you.
Right. I have a lot of experience in Photoshop, so I'll look into it. I'll check it out. I'll see if it's like something that might help me.
Like I said, go look up some tutorials, or watch some time lapse of people creating in the program and see what people have created with it. And I think you'll find that to be at least something worth looking into as a potential tool for comic creation or just art creation in general.
So, one of the things I'll say is, and I've had this conversation with a bunch of different writers and artists and comic book creators. It has never been easier. It has never been easier to break into the comic book industry. Never been easier. Anybody can do it. My suggestion to you, and you've had questions about this on the show before. My suggestion to you would utilize the internet. Do digital comics, like web-based comics, I should say. Do a web-based comic book. Yeah, just do a web comic. Throw that bad boy up once a week, or however long you can put them out. Build a following that way, so that then when you get to a certain point, if you do maybe a page or 2 pages every week or something like that, whatever frequency you have, build up your you build up a audience, because there's an infinite of different ways to get into the industry, to be successful in the industry. It's so many. That to me is the easiest way to build a name and an audience for yourself, and the cheapest way.
Right.
The absolute cheapest way. I know you've got your own website, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But it's literally the cheapest way to get into it, and I would suggest that. It just makes, because you can do what I did, which was probably the hardest, which was jump in, head first, and
not have an idea
and
what you were
get
doing.
A concussion all the way through. But I mean, that's what I did. I sat down, I did a book, I found the funding for it through Kickstarter. I actually failed the Kickstarter the first time, and then was successful the second time, and then I just put that book out, and then I did the next book, and then I did the next book, and then I did a con. I didn't do a con until I had my third book. Like, I didn't even do a Comic-Con until I did my third book. And then a lot of people would tell you to start small and do the small con, but I didn't. I jumped in and did the $300 table con at Terrificon, and so I've literally done it the hard way. Every time I've been doing it the hard way, but there's also I understand what I'm going into, because there are a lot of people that don't. Like, they believe, a lot of people will think, okay, I'm gonna do this comic book and I'm gonna sell thousands of copies from the jump, and I knew that wasn't gonna happen, and I was kind of prepared for it. And just as long as you understand, learn about the industry, like learn about what industry you're trying to be in. If you're trying to be a novelist, learn about the industry for books. Doing comic books, learn whatever industry you're trying to become a part of. You get as knowledgeable as you can about it,
right?
Because it will help you along the way and how you prepare and how you are able to deal with when things don't go right. You know, when you fail a Kickstarter, when you don't sell any books at a con or performance or at an event, because that happens. You know, and that's the best thing I can tell you to do is just be knowledgeable of what you're doing before you do it. You know, but you can do both, right? Like you can learn about it, but you can just keep putting those web comics out. And
then like over time you'll start improving. Like the more you learn.
Yeah. So I would definitely do that. But I wanted to say this thing, and then I'm gonna shoot it over to Jamari. Frank said characters with insecurities and weaknesses are good things to add. Okay, he meant.
I think this is
are good things to add to characters.
About character development. Yeah.
One of the things that I was taught as well is that every character you should, no matter what, you should write. That character should have something you like about them and something you don't like, good or bad guy.
Right.
Because, go ahead.
I was going to say they should have like likable traits and things you don't like about them. Because if you just go in with like a flat, boring character, then no one's going to like that character. And you've basically wasted some time just adding random characters in that don't serve a purpose.
Because even if you have like a bad guy, like Thanos is a great example. Thanos is evil. He wants to wipe out half the world, but he's a boss. Like he's like, he has a way about him that makes you want to keep watching.
Like you don't want him to succeed, but you want to like keep following what he does.
Right. Like he'll say something really cool, or he'll do something really cool. You make him a excuse my language, y'all, a badass, and he people want to keep watching. Like one of the biggest lines of Thanos that everybody loves saying is, you couldn't deal with your failures, and that led you back to me. That is a boss line.
That was a really nice line.
That's a line that I can literally see them go, I can't believe I just wrote that. That one's gonna stick with us. But you just gotta find, like Loki. Loki is charming. He wants to kill you, but he's a charming guy. And it's just, you just need to find something.
There's
the
elements of humanity, or the elements of empathy and sympathy give you something to bond with and connect with, so that somebody like Killmonger, as much as he was who he was, there's something there's something that drives him. And every character we've mentioned, there's a driving force behind whatever actions they do, no matter how noble or how terrible they are.
Right.
Thanos is a true believer in what his pursuit is. He believes the thing that he's doing is absolutely the best solution for what he's trying to accomplish. And Loki is really doing so much of all the things he's doing out of a need for love and and trying to prove himself. He spends his whole time trying to prove himself and fit in, and he's going about it in the worst ways possible.
Right.
Killmonger is really dealing with all of his issues of abandonment and anger of losing his father and what it turned him into. Those little bits, those little things essentially go back to what Javon was talking about, and that's the whole idea of you have to have a nugget there, and each one of those characters has a nugget kind of within them. And you'll find as you can continue to create, those are the things that are going to drive you with those characters. They're going to tell the story for you. They're going to tell you about themselves as you write them and create them.
Right.
Do you have any favorite like comic book creators, writers, or artists?
I can't really say that I do, because I personally, I'm going to admit this here and now, I haven't read a lot of comic books. I've only just started getting back into them. But one that I picked up was a Miles Morales comic. I haven't really, again, I don't have too much time. Class has been getting kind of crazy, but I just like I've just started getting back into comics. I think like after watching so many Marvel movies, it's like, okay, I want to see what like the comics were about, because everyone compares the movies to the comics. I'm like, all right, so let's see what the comics are about. Let's see what those kind of stories are there like about.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest, if, like I said, if you're going to be a part of a industry,
You
you
should
should
know more
learn
about
about
that
the industry,
industry.
but also look at the people who are good in the industry and learn from that. My favorite writers, and I've said it on the show before, my favorite comic book writers are Mark Waid. He's done some fantastic books. Kingdom Come is probably my favorite Mark Waid book. It's a great story, which at its the nugget is Superman outdated? That's the nugget, and he's able to take it in this amazing on this amazing journey and make this entire world all based on that one nugget. But he's done a huge run on the Flash, which everybody is stolen from. If you've ever watched the Flash TV show, they might as well be sending that man checks on a weekly basis. Everything that we know about the Flash has come from Mark Waid. The Speed Force, all that stuff, that's Mark Waid.
Okay.
So he's one of my favorites. Christopher Priest is an amazing writer. You were wearing a Black Panther shirt. He probably did the seminal run on Black Panther. Again, if you watch the Black Panther movie, there are about 3 writers that are responsible in comics for most of that stuff, and he's one of them. Christopher Priest, his Black Panther run, but he's done a ton of stuff. He's done Spider-Man, he's done Superman, he's done everything. But his Black Panther run is kind of that's his heart right now. I'm trying to think of some other writers. Alan Moore is a phenomenal writer. I was about to curse. Did you watch the Watchmen TV show? Or have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so the original story, he wrote it. It is, it's a great dissection of what superheroes are, kind of through the filter of a real world. It's a great book. It's a self-contained book. You can read it. It's 12. Look it up. Watchmen. It's a great book. He did an amazing run on Swamp Thing. He's done, and I know I'm giving you surface level stuff, but I'm giving you the stuff to kind of, learn.
Get me interested.
You can dig in. You'll once you go down the rabbit hole, you'll go there. So Christopher Priest, Alan Moore, Mark Waid. Kurt Busiek is a great writer. I follow him. I follow a lot of his stuff. He did an Avengers run. A lot of what you're about to see coming forth with the MCU, that's him. Like the Kang War, the Kang Dynasty, or whatever. That's Kurt. Kurt, kind of took the nugget of the idea of Kang and kind of expanded it in different ways. He also did a phenomenal Superman story called Secret Identity. I would check that out. Trying to think what other writers. Grant Morrison, great writer. But these are guys who are at the top of their games. I'm trying to give you more. Dwayne McDuffie. Dwayne McDuffie is a phenomenal writer. If you like Static, if you like, any of the Milestone stuff, look up Milestone and read all those books. They've got trades for some of them, but Dwayne McDuffie, phenomenal writer. Oh man. I've given you go with those four. Brian K. Vaughan is a great writer. And he's done superheroes, but he's more famous for this book called Why the Last Man. And it's basically the nugget of it is if every man on the planet died except for one. And there's a ton of Black writers. There's a ton of indie writers who you can check. Greg Ellisay, been on the show before. Is Nanya who else? Danny J. Quick, got a shout out to Danny J. Quick, Morgan Iverson, great writers. Victor Dandridge has been on the show, is a great writer. Tyler Martin has been on the show. There are all these great writers, younger guys who are, who are coming for those
top spots.
Yeah. And myself, I think I'm okay. I had to do that. You know, I had to do that.
Yeah. Getting there.
But yeah, check out those writers, artists. There are so many phenomenal artists who have mastered drawing comics that just watch what they do and okay, I see how he did that. Because there's so many ways with comics that you control the tempo of the story, you control the surprise factor. Like, okay, you structure it so that the panel at the end of the page, when you turn it, then you get the surprise. Like, a lot of people don't think you can do a surprise in the comic, but that's how you structure it. Alex Ross is one of my favorite artists. He just done Kingdom Come. He's done a wonderful book called Marvels. Kurt Busiek has done Marvels. That's a freaking fantastic book. And I know there are a lot of people that I haven't said, and I'm sorry if you're watching it. Rodney Barnes is going to be in the show. Freaking phenomenal writer. Great. George Perez is a master. Like, check out, he's done Wonder Woman, Titans, Avengers. Like, he knows what he's friggin' doing. I'm literally looking at my bookshelf while I do this, while I talk to you. Scott Collins is a great newer artist. Well, he's not new. He's been in the industry for a while. Kolins. Scott McDaniel is one of my favorite artists. Geez, I know Stuart Eminem. I always pronounce his name wrong, but these are the guys that you should watch because they just know. Like they God just blessed them with an ability, a fantastic ability to kind of master the art form. John Cassaday, insanely good artist. Steve Dillon. And then what you learn is there are a lot of guys, like there are a lot of artists. Jim Lee, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Jim Lee is, everybody knows Jim Lee. I didn't feel like I necessarily need to say it, but Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Mark Silvestri, those guys are, they're the standard, But yeah, if you, like I said, if you want to do this, like, I always tell people, what is Steve Harvey? Steve Harvey did the bit about parachutes and, when you're going to jump, you got to jump in. That's the only way you learn how to fly. You can't learn how to fly with a parachute. So, if you're going to go in, learn from the masters. They've already done it. They've laid down like the foundation for you. So, learn how they did it, figure it out, and then it will help you be easier than try to figure it out on your own,
Right.
And they're just good comics, man. Comics are awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamari. I talked for a while there.
I just, he was. I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Javon was talking about. Find those things that you're passionate about with it, and get into really knowing what those things are and how they've come together. It goes back to that whole methodical thing. Once you start picking it apart in a certain way, and it sounds like you've already got a mindset of already kind of analyzing art and analyzing things that are content. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do that, but do it from the standpoint of also your passion for it, because you get excited, and then it helps you pull the things out that you want to do. Because I see this thing that this writer does, and you can point it out every time, and it becomes that whole mastery. These people that he's bringing up in this on this list, they could probably point things out, and or they could probably pull a thread line about how they came to this thing with a character, and you'd be like, how did they get that deep with it? It's because they continue to play with it and continue to work. And I'm going to give you this, I guess, is the biggest thing that I can probably say about this kind of thing is whatever you put out there, when you finally put it, have you put out any content so far?
Like in terms of publishing, or not yet. I want that's one of my goals for maybe this year or next year. I want to publish something. I want to get something out there, but I've not published anything yet.
So do not worry about, one of the things that paralyzes a lot of people is the aspect of worrying about, is it good enough? Or is this the right thing? And they overthink it and it becomes a monkey on their back.
Yeah. I've been told that, like, some stuff similar to that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta learn to let go, unfortunately.
Yeah. You're going to look back at something and you're going to be like, what was I thinking? I have literally had conversations with Javon where he is like, what was I doing with this? I'm going to redraw these things, or I want to redraw it, but it's out there now. And I hate looking back at this because I've heard him 1,000 times tell me he was mad at something after the fact that he's put it out here, and I see these mistakes or I see that. And I was like, the book is out. You're selling it. You made what you wanted to make.
Well, but also, to piggyback on that, other people don't necessarily see your mistakes.
Yeah. It's like, always you that notices your own mistakes after you've made them.
Not always. Like, it's funny. I ran into a gentleman at the last con, and he kind of gave me a critique of my work, of my books. And he was like, "Oh yeah, the leg there," and he was calling out all the stuff that was bothering me. And I was like, "I know." But he didn't do it it wasn't with malice. It was more of I want to help you.
It was constructive.
Yeah, and you have to learn how to take constructive criticism, because I know you're in college right now, so you're you kind of going through a little bit that, like, that's the time to build that callus.
Didn't SCAD basically have a class dedicated to doing that?
I mean, I tell this story all the time. I'll tell it again. I had a teacher. I had a animation that I was supposed to do. He gave us the assignment. And this was our final project. So it was a short. We had to do an animated short. And halfway through, at the halfway point, everybody had to show the amount of work they had done. And he got to mine, and it was like Matt Maloney. Shout out to Matt Maloney. How you doing? But he got to mine and was like, "You're not gonna finish this." And I was sitting there like, I was thinking how much work I did. And he's like, "You're not gonna finish this." I was like, all right. But I use that as motivation, because again, the people who've watched the show, if you haven't watched the show before, I love to prove people wrong.
Right.
I like to be right. And I like to prove people wrong. So if you tell me, the best way to get me to do something is tell me I can't do it.
Right. Javon will never make it down to Atlanta by April 22nd. Never happened.
That actually bothers me, to him saying that. But that is kind of my point. Like, you kind of have, like, because I was in SCAD, so SCAD was very much like, the teacher would tell you, "Yeah, this isn't good," or you didn't put yourself in this, you didn't do it well. Because it's their job. Their job is to tell you, man, it sucks. If they need to tell you, it sucks. And that's why I said you can't be concerned about what your family says. Like, my family can tell me all day, "I'm so proud of you. Your stuff is so great." And it feels nice, and it gives me a nice little bit of serotonin. But that's not who it matters. Who matters is the person who's going to put $10, $20, $30 down for your book, because their support, people don't have to give you anything. Like, that's the one thing. Like, I always get into like this phase where I'm like, the imposter syndrome. I get it sometimes. Like, man, This, but like literally, I'm doing a Comic-Con this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It never fails. When I set up my table, I'm gonna sit there, and for a brief second, I'm gonna be like, and nobody wants to buy my book. But then when people do, very few people will come up to you and give you charity. Like, well, I felt bad for him, so I'm going to give him $10. These books are too expensive. There's too much out there, or especially at a Comic-Con, there's too much that no one does it for free. So when somebody does do it, they're telling you they like what you're doing by the money that they spend. So I focus on that. Like that's what I focus on. Okay, X amount of people bought my book, so I must be doing something right. But that my family, I love y'all. I love every one of y'all. And when you tell me my work is great, I appreciate it. But it kind of goes in one ear and out the other because I can't hold on to that.
Right.
Like I hold on to it.
That's
like
why I give you insults all the time.
I mean, that's
I have to counteract it.
That's what he's here for. He's here to make fun of me. But it's like I hold it like it's a family member giving me a hug. It's like it's family member love. But a family member hug is a different hug than my wife. My wife chose to be here for one reason or another.
Right.
But like they didn't choose to make me family. She did. So it's a different feeling. But just understand that you got to be ready to fail.
Right.
And what's the Jordan? Is it Jordan Kobe who says, I missed a lot of shots, or what does he say?
It's like you miss most of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah, I miss most of the shots that you don't take.
I forget who said that.
of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But no. Jordan said I missed like thousands of shots. He said something like
you're
that.
Talking about
you're talking about Kobe.
Yeah, he's talking. Jordan said something like that, and it's true. And then there's another saying that I read, like you have thousands of bad drawings in you. The only way to get them out is to get them out, is to do it. So you just, you keep going and you just understand that it's a process. So like Jamari said, I look back at my first book and some days, like I don't generally look through it all that much, but I read my trade start to finish because I had to make sure everything was right. But I was looking through it like, I know I'm a better artist than this, but you understand that that's where you were at that point. It's not where you are now.
Right.
And even the most recent book, my Heat #1, I still look through it and go, I'm a better artist than I am now. Like,
it's like you've improved. You've improved like your style over the years. That's definitely how I felt over my own art as well.
That's all that matters. Do you have any questions for us? We've been giving a lot. We want to be able to give you, answer questions that you might have.
All right. So I wrote a little list here of the questions.
While you talk, I'm going to show folks some of your artwork.
All right. So
the artwork that you gave me.
My first question for you is, how did you get to the point of like publishing, editing, like stuff like that? Like how did you reach that point once you finished your book? Like, what did you do once you finished your first book?
Well, we're not going to talk about my first book because that was an abject disaster. For Heat, I did everything. So I mean, as soon as I finished it, I did a Kickstarter to pay to fund the printing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2015. But I also gave myself a deadline. I said, I want to have the book done by this time. And it was like it was a few months. And the reason why I did that is because if I didn't give myself a deadline, I would never finish, because as Jamari says, I would always be, I can redo that page. I can redo that page. I can redo that page. Even then I had done, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell it to you. I did an article for Bleeding Cool, and I put, I think like 4 or 5 preview pages of Heat up.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the dumb mistake of reading the comment section. and the people were like ripping my artwork, and I was just sitting there going, and I was talking to my wife, and I was feeling it, like, oh my God, like maybe I shouldn't do this, and my wife was like, why did you read the comment section? Don't be stupid and don't do that again. But what I did is I kind of took that criticism and I looked at the pages again. And I said, all right, how can I fix things that need to be fixed? And I think I redid like two or three of the pages. And then, but now I look at those pages and I remember the old pages and I'm like, oh, it's better. Like I'm still better than that, but that's better than that. So it was just a matter of like, I learned how to do, and then I learned how to do everything on the book. I had never lettered a book before the way I did this book. My first book, I hand lettered like an idiot. I tell you, abject disaster. That's what I meant by I literally learned on the press. I did one book and I did everything wrong and it showed. But now like I had kind of learned. So instead of hand doing the lettering, I was like, all right, I'm gonna use Illustrator. So I had to go and there's another book. It's the same one, DC Comics Guide to Lettering Comics. And so that taught me how to structure words within the bubble. It taught me, okay, the bubble placement matters, like how so if you got this person says this, then this person says this, and this person said, the bubble should follow that and how they should overlap. Like it taught me that stuff too. So I went into learning about lettering. I deep dived in learning about coloring, how to color in Photoshop, like what to do, color theory, all that other stuff. Like I kind of went in and learned the craft. Like I joke around to people that if you want to get into comic books, do a whole book yourself.
Right.
Even if you're not an artist, do a whole book yourself so that you can learn the process and learn what goes into it. Because you as a writer is writing a script. The artist in you has to interpret that script. The colorist in you has to learn how to make your colors. And actually, I'm skipping inking, but I'm assuming that if you're drawing it, you're inking it. But the inker has to embellish. The colorist has. So once you do all of it, you learn how to make it all work together. For instance, as an artist, I know, let's look at my screen, right? There's space to put a bubble to the here and here. So that's how I would draw it. Or I would move the character over so that all the bubbles will be over here, right? Or I move the character over here if I want to move the direction of the eye of the person. So that's how a lot of stuff you don't really learn until you do everything. Well, I mean, you can learn it without doing everything, but I feel like it helps because as a writer, I know, okay, I've got 6 panels, right? So I've got 6 panels. I need to make sure what my dialogue is can fit in these 6 panels and also give my artist the space to work. Now, as an artist, I have to learn, okay, I need to make space for the words. So that means instead of, a lot of times you'll see artists have like a ton of detail in the panel, but then it's covered by all the bubbles.
Right.
So that artist essentially wastes his time doing all that design work when really he could have just done kind of like I don't want to say the bare minimum, but like a smaller version
that you would see.
Right. And then as a colorist, again, you understanding the mood of the moment, like you could do a whole scene that's lit by like a red light and you're understanding what that implies, what emotional state, that explains for the characters, for the scene, for everything. So you understand that because you're understanding what the writer does, what the writer and what the artist / inker does. And then for the letterer, again, the bubbles can draw and direct you. Like, that's how I use bubbles. I use bubbles to direct where I want the reader to look. Right? Like, you follow the bubbles, you should be able to follow along the page. So I had to learn all this stuff while I was doing my first book.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase. I was learning it beforehand, but in practice, a lot of the stuff I learned about it, but I also kind of figured my way. So now when I'm doing a book, I move faster. A, because I know more what I'm doing than before. And B, I can just draw back on previous experiences of screwing up to be like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. I can't do that again. So yeah, that's a long drawn out answer for your one. So, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I guess my next question would be like, so do you do like your editing and like, do you do like self-publishing now, or do you have like someone that publishes your stuff for you?
My stuff is published under Visually Stoked Media. I am the editor for now, because this man above me will be editing my next book. Praise God. I'm tired of doing it. I really am.
Red ink everywhere.
I am. We will be doing. He will be editing the actual pages, so he'll be making sure continuity works. Once I put the lettering in, well, he's going to be monitoring the colors, everything. I'm going to be throwing stuff at him.
Right. So all right. So I guess my next question would kind of be like, do you know if there's any like courses or like internships that relate to comics? I don't know if that's really like something you're too aware about, but I figured I'd ask, just in case.
I think Marvel still does their internship, but that requires you to live in New York.
Okay.
I know other creators do internships. Michael Watson, shout out to Michael Watson. I know he has interns. I'm actually going to be looking into doing interns very, very soon, because I enjoy teaching on a smaller level. I can't be a teacher. Can't be a teacher in a classroom on a regular basis. I would take some kids out. That's just not me. But I love talking to people who want to learn. So, and then I'm going to use it to help with my book. So I'll be doing internships. But I would just, Google them up, Google them. Just, check out Google. They might be able to help you on that. Internships with comics is interesting. It's not a high paying job, even when it's not an internship. So, and because it's such an easy industry to break into, like, it's not hard to break into comics. I broke into comics by making a comic book and selling it. Now here I am. Now I'm not broken into Marvel and I haven't broken into DC, but I'm also not focused on doing that.
Right.
Like, I'm just focused on doing this. If Marvel and DC want to talk to me, sure.
All right. So how long does it usually take to like publish something? And is it like a challenge to publish it at all?
When you say publish, what do you mean?
Like when you get your comic book out there, like printed for people to like purchase, is that like a long, difficult process? Like for Heat, how long did it take for you to like get that like
printed?
Printed, finalized, like done editing, that sort of stuff, if that makes sense?
Well, I would say the first book took me, because I work a full-time job, I usually try to add up all the time that I spend doing it. So it's probably, like, this last book took me probably between 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months.
from start drawing to the book is at my door. To actually print a book is easy. Once you have the TIFFs, the TIFF files, you just pay the printer and the printer sends it to you. You get it in a week.
Okay, so that's not bad then.
Yeah, printing that's literally the easiest part of the process.
Okay, so printing is like the easiest part.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
just got to pay for it.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, do you know any like artists, or do you know anyone who like in a similar position to like where I am in terms of like where I am in the middle of my process of like working on my comic? Like, I suppose I should explain like
no, I know
where
what you
I
mean.
am in the process. Okay.
I know what you mean, but you can explain. Go ahead.
All right, so I'm at the point where I finished like writing, and now I'm in the middle of like revising and editing. And then, well, previously I wrote it in book form, but since I want to translate it into a comic, that's going to take a bit more time to like format it as a comic book. And I guess I was just wondering if you've known anyone in a similar like position that I'm in right now.
You mean an artist looking to write somebody's stuff, or a writer who's transitioned from book to comic book?
Yeah, a writer who's transitioning from book to comic.
I know Malachi Bailey. He was on the show. What was it? A couple months ago, Jamari? He had the book Her. Yeah, Malachi did that. He translated his book from book to comic book form. So I mean, you know, he's not at the beginning of the journey like you are, but you know, he would be a very good resource to reach out to. 9 times out of 10, if you befriend people on Facebook, a comic book creator on Facebook, you know, they'll accept a friend request. If you're not a weirdo to them, they can be nice and talk to you. You know, you could ask them questions. Hey, you know, I've got some, you know, can I get some advice? You know, they'll be nice enough to reach out and talk with you if they have time. But yeah, Malik, what'd you say?
They'll be nicer than Javon. No.
I mean, you know, I think I'm pretty likable. I was told by Kyron Silva that I'm very likable. But you know, he said that comparing me to Danny and Morgan. All right, go ahead, man.
I think that's really like the big questions that I have. Anything else would just be kind of small and answerable just by like doing a quick Google search or something.
And it is a great tool. Like YouTube and Google is a great tool. You know, a lot of people in the industry, big, you know, who've been doing it for years, they didn't have that. You know, we do. You know, we have the ability to learn something very quickly and get answers, you know, really quickly. I will say this from an artist perspective: learn the craft of art before you, like, if you want to be a professional artist, learn how to draw everything. And I mean, don't just try to draw anime stuff or whatever. Learn how to draw everything. Because when you learn how to draw everything, then you can break the rules. When you learn the rules, then you can break them. And a lot of people try to break the rules and they don't know the rules and it looks weird. You know, so learn how to draw like everything. Learn, you know, if you want to get better, and then learn storytelling. Like how, like I always say, when I'm looking at anybody's work who asks me for, you know, a critique, if I can't tell what's happening in the story without balloons, like the overall idea of what's happening, then you got to go back to the drawing board, because it's a visual medium. So usually what I tell people to do is watch a movie, take a scene of a movie that you like, and storyboard that out.
Okay.
And then try to make it a comic book, and then make sure, see if you can follow it, and just show it. If you want to go to your family members about anything, go to them and say, can you understand what's happening here?
Right.
That's better question. You will get a real answer. I ask my wife all the time, do you know what's happening here? And she'll be like, not either really. Or she'll be like, yeah, and I'll be like, okay, good, I got it.
Okay.
All right.
And yeah, I guess one last question is, can I like shamelessly plug, talk about my book?
You absolutely can shamelessly plug. That's what we're here for, sir.
All right. Perfect. All right. So my website right here, it's currently the free trial of Wix, but on there you have all my like artwork from some of my artwork from last year, some of my artwork from this year as well. And I guess kind of talking about, Restart, that's the book that is like my main book right now. It's what I'm working on. So the story here is that a young man, his name is Sav, he moves to this super technologically advanced city after like just being separated from his mother. Well, he was separated from his mother a long time ago, but we learned that he was separated from his mother again. And as he like starts to live in the city, try to adjust to a normal life, he comes across this device that he learns has the power to travel, to take him to other dimensions, as well as alter reality in the real world. And so when a man learns about the device's power, he wants to use that for like his own benefit in order to help heal like a broken part of his family. And so Sav has to work with a bunch of his like new friends that he makes to really expose the man for like the true villain that he is. And that's kind of like the overall story.
Okay. All right. So y'all check it out. I'm gonna give you one more piece of advice before we go. Mm-hmm. Last piece of advice. This is a critique, because that's what we're here for.
Of course.
Learn an elevator pitch, right? You know what an elevator pitch is?
Yeah.
Okay. Learn to do a quick elevator pitch, and then B. I said A. B. Find the thing that makes your book special, and focus on that. Mm-hmm. Like, the best way to do this is think of a movie or a book that you like and boil that down to 30 seconds.
Right. Okay.
Like The Matrix is, what if the real world was blah, 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 or was fake and the machines took over.
Yeah.
That's quick. Because that's why people have short attention span. Mm-hmm. Got to get them in that short amount of time.
Yeah. What's your hook?
Yeah, give them the hook real quick. If they want to learn everything else about it, they'll ask you a question.
Then you can go more.
Right.
I just kind of gave you the
that's okay.
The best summary I could.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Don't do summaries.
Do
the hook. Give me the hook.
Do the hook.
What happens if you get a device that can change your life? And and then people will lean in and be like, "Oh, really? Oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more."
In the hands of a teenager,
right, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, find that hook. You get that hook, and you can find a good one. It takes a long time to get a really good hook. It took me years to get a hook for Heat that I love, and I finally found it, and I am not letting it go. But the hook is what people listen to and gets them ears perked. And then they'll ask the questions. Then you can start giving them the summary of the story and everything like that.
It's like the nugget we talked about. You want to give them the nugget.
It's the taste. It's the taste.
It's just a little sample, a little taste.
Yep,
and
just
then
a little taste.
Add more details when they get curious.
Yep. It's like give them a bite of the pizza. If it's pizza's good, they'll want to eat the rest.
They want more. They want more pizza.
But I'm proud of you. I'm very happy you were able to come on. You've done a very good job. This is your first interview?
Yeah, this is my first interview in regards to like story stuff.
All right. Well, you are on a great path, Savion. Am I saying your name right? Savion,
yeah.
Right? I'm assuming.
One more question.
Okay.
I got for you.
Last one.
What are your thoughts about me like sharing my book with like other people What are your thoughts about that?
What do you mean?
Like me reaching out to people and like telling them, hey, I'm writing this book. It's about this. I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on it, like as like an unbiased opinion.
I mean, I think that's a great idea. I mean, as long as you let them know, I mean, most people aren't going to take your idea. Tyler Martin famously told me this: no one cares about your idea. So yeah, listen, can you help? I would like your opinion of this. Give me a critique. Don't just, because if you just say here's my book, people are just be like, but if you say, I'm looking for some, some
feedback,
advice or whatever, feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good idea. But I wish you the best of luck, and I'm certain you will be on here again, talking about your self-published books and all your great stuff, or even working for one of the big boys. But I appreciate you coming on, and me, my phone is always open for you. If you need any advice, you need anything, holla at me. And where are you, in Connecticut?
Yeah, I'm in Connecticut. I'm in Bluefield.
Yeah, listen, when I get to the internships, like, I'll holler at you, man. I got no problem helping out, man. That's what I'm here for. But yes, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Honestly,
no problem.
I wasn't expecting to come on this Thursday. I was kind of nervous.
All right, man. You did a great job. You did great. You did great. But thank you, everybody who watched. We appreciate it. Thank you for joining for the season 2. Next week, as I've said before, the impeccable Rodney Barnes, award-winning writer, producer, and creator of Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, and Philadelphia, will be on 8 p.m. Eastern. Please join us like I said before, come see me at Northeast Comic-Con and Collectibles Extravaganza, March 10th through 12th. Come get some of that heat, some of that fire, and have a great weekend. And thank you for stopping by for some creative talk with creative people. See you next week or this weekend.